Ever feel that like little knot of dread when someone mentions new procedures or system upgrades?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we're diving into that today, specifically change phobia. And we're using office epidemics as our guide. It's a fascinating look at these kind of hidden workplace hurdles.
And it goes way beyond just, I don't like new things. It gets into the psychology of why change can be so scary for some people.
Totally. And they've got this character, Suresh. He's like the poster child for change phobia.
Our nervous turtle, that's what they call him in the book.
Love it. So no judgment if you've been a Suresh at some point. We've all been there. But for those lucky enough to have avoided it, how does the book actually define change phobia?
It's deeper than just disliking change. It's an actual fear. Stems from wanting control and, honestly, being scared of the unknown. Think about that feeling when you know your job backwards and forwards. Then, bam, everything changes.
It's like that mini panic when your phone does a software update and suddenly you can't find anything.
Exactly. And that's Suresh's reality. He's all about knowing what to expect, being good at what he does. The idea of messing up in a new situation, not being the expert anymore. Terrifying for him.
So change equals loss of control, which for someone like Suresh equals major fear. But how does that actually play out? What are the signs someone might be struggling with this?
They lay out 5 key symptoms in the book, and honestly, most of us have either been that person or worked with that person. First one's kind of obvious. Resisting anything new. Like with Suresh, new project management software gets announced.
And he's clinging to his old spreadsheets for dear life.
Exactly. And that ties into the second symptom, fear of learning the new stuff. It's not just, I don't like this, it's, I'm scared I won't be able to keep up.
Oh, for sure. Like, imagine if Suresh feels like everyone else is getting this software and he's falling behind. Huge blow to the confidence.
Huge. And this fear, it shows up differently in everyone. Some people get super vocal, like they're trying to scare the change away by talking about it. Others, more like Suresh, they go into hiding.
Dodging meetings, losing the training manuals. Classic.
Yep, that's our third symptom. Avoidance. They think if they ignore it long enough, maybe it'll just go away.
Newsflash. It never does. And this is where it starts impacting the whole team, right?
100%. And that brings us to number 4, frustrated colleagues. The people who are actually excited about the change are getting held back.
I'm picturing Priya, the project manager in Suresh's story. She sees the potential of this software, but Suresh is like a brick wall.
Right. And it's not just Priya. Ravi, who's eager to learn, Ananya, the new team member who's just trying to find her footing, they're all affected by this.
It creates this weird tension, even if no one's saying it out loud.
Which leads us to the 5th and final symptom, missed opportunities. When you're so busy being scared of change, you miss out on chances to grow.
There's that great quote in the book, if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less.
General Eric Shinseki telling it like it is, sticking to the old ways even when they don't work anymore, that's a recipe for getting left behind.
So we've established change phobia. It's more than just a dislike. Real symptoms, real impact.
Yeah.
But what do we do about it?
That's where Office Epidemics gets super practical. They've got this self-assessment tool to figure out how severe your change phobia is, and then solutions for each level, starting with perception.
A self-assessment tool.
Huh.
Okay, part of me is really curious, and the other part is like, maybe ignorance is bliss.
Right. Don't worry, it's not about labeling yourself. It's more like a way to get to know yourself better when it comes to change at work.
Okay, I can get behind that.
So they ask these questions, and they're so relatable, like, how often do you find yourself shooting down new ideas? Or even if you don't say it out loud, are you thinking it?
Oh, I've been there.
We all have, right? And that's the point, to make us think, okay, maybe I do have some of those tendencies. Then the book helps you figure out, is your change phobia more like perception level? Or has it escalated to problem? Or, and this one made me laugh, pain.
Perception, problem, pain. Catchy, but yeah, feels like there's levels to this.
Totally. So perception, that's like, you might grumble a little when things change, but you adapt.
Like, ugh, new software update. Fine, I guess I'll figure it out.
Exactly. And for that, the book's advice is pretty gentle. Be patient with yourself. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Makes sense. But what if you're more in that problem zone?
Then it's about being more proactive. Talk to your manager. Really try to understand why this change is happening. Be part of the process.
Instead of just letting it happen to you.
Yes. But if you're at that pain level where change feels completely overwhelming, that's where they introduce this awesome framework called ADAPT-PP.
ADAPT. Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
So it stands for acknowledge, discuss, address, provide, and take. And each step is all about helping people work through the change, starting with acknowledge. This doesn't mean you agree with their resistance, but you're acknowledging that, yeah, this is a big deal, and it's okay to feel some kind of way about it.
So instead of saying get over it, you're saying, I hear you. Change is hard.
Exactly. And then you discuss, this is where you really clearly explain why this change is happening, not just in general, but how will it help the team? How will it help that person specifically?
Take the bigger picture, right?
Yes. And if they still have fears, that's address, as in address fears directly. Really listen to their concerns and work together to find solutions.
So it's a conversation, not a lecture.
Exactly. Once those fears are out in the open, then it's provide, meaning provide support, training, whatever they need to feel equipped.
Extra help with the software, clear instructions, just someone to answer questions.
Yeah.
It's about making people feel supported, not abandoned.
Exactly. And then finally, take, as in take small steps. You don't have to go from 0 to 60 overnight. Break it down into smaller chunks.
I love that. So practical. Okay, but we've got to talk about our nervous turtle, Suresh. Does the book offer any advice specifically for him?
It does. 6 steps, actually. And it all starts with acknowledging that fear is a natural human response, but we don't have to let it call the shots.
We can choose how we react, rather than just freezing up.
Yes. And then they encourage Suresh to take baby steps. Spend a few minutes each day familiarizing himself with the new software. Just get comfortable.
And he doesn't have to do it alone, right?
Absolutely not. They talk about the importance of reaching out to colleagues who've already adjusted, asking questions, learning from their experiences, and crucially, shifting his focus. Instead of dwelling on what could go wrong, focus on what could go right. How will these changes make his work life better?
Change your perspective, change your experience.
Right. And ultimately, it's about embracing a growth mindset. Change is a process. It takes time. But if we look at those challenges as opportunities to learn and grow, we come out stronger on the other side.
I love that. And speaking of growth, I think we need to change gears slightly. This case study with the manager facing the team restructure, that feels like a whole other level of change phobia.
Oh, definitely. And the book actually uses ADPT for that situation, too. It's fascinating how adaptable the framework is.
So how do you take ADPT and use it for, like, a whole team being restructured? That feels intense.
And the book uses that exact example, which is so cool. So first up, acknowledge. You don't just barge in with all the logical reasons why it's a good idea. You start with, hey, I know this is huge. It's totally normal to be unsure about it.
Recognizing it's a big deal before you even get into the details.
Exactly. And then you get into that discuss phase. But this is where you got to be crystal clear about why this is happening and not just, oh, it'll be more efficient. How will this manager's team specifically benefit? How is their role going to be even more important after this?
But what if their fear is legit? Like, what if they're worried about their team getting slammed with too much work? How do you discuss that?
Well, that's where address fears directly is so key. It's a back and forth, not a you're wrong, I'm right situation. It might sound like, okay, I hear you on the workload. What can we do to either adjust things or get you the support you need?
Solutions focused. I like that.
100%. So you've acknowledged their feelings, you've discussed the why, you've addressed the fears head on, then it's provide time. Maybe that's extra training on how this new team structure works, who does what. Maybe it's assigning them a mentor who's been through a similar restructure and can offer guidance.
Give them the tools to actually succeed, not just survive.
I love it. Exactly. And last but not least, take small steps. Don't expect everyone to embrace this overnight. Maybe you start with a few cross-team projects. Slowly transition responsibilities so that by the time the new structure is official, it feels like a natural evolution.
This is making me realize ADP is such a useful framework on so many levels.
Totally. And it all goes back to that growth mindset. Change is a constant, but it doesn't have to be something we dread.
So true. Big thanks to Office Epidemics for these amazing insights and to all of you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep embracing those opportunities to learn, grow, and maybe even surprise yourselves with how well you handle change.